Anita, for more on this, we're joined now by Savage Operations founder Adam Smith. He's been heavily involved in the recovery effort from Hurricane Helene in western North Carolina. I spent time on the ground with him. Adam, thank you for taking time. I know you're continuing to try and help people still struggling in western North Carolina, but I want first to get your reaction when you heard this news about FEMA and avoiding what appears to be some 20 homes in Florida.
Well, to say that I was surprised would be a lie. I don't necessarily want to demean or demonize every FEMA employee or worker that's out there. I think there are a lot of them that have a good heart that want to help people. The question that it leads me to is to ask the question of what sort of culture has been established in order for, FEMA personnel on the ground, or leadership for that matter, to provide this sort of instruction to FEMA personnel that want to provide help. And more so, I had an interaction with local FEMA officials as well, and they wanted to help people. And what was the interesting thing is it was stated that, hey, we can't have our fingerprints on this, which I think it leads back to the actual question, which is, what sort of culture and what sort of fear is there in place at some of the lower levels of FEMA personnel, where they're afraid they're going to lose their job if they don't speak up against actions that are blatantly not aligned with what the organization is supposed to be doing?
And Adam, what your team of amazing, dedicated volunteers did that I witnessed and we reported on was really because of the slow response that we saw from the federal government and FEMA in areas like Swannanoa, where you are among the hardest hit. In fact, I remember speaking with country music, folk music star Oliver Anthony, who visited your location to try and see how he could help out because he's from there. Here's a little bit of what he told me. He mentioned FEMA in our conversation. Listen.
It's just been a lot of volunteers and veterans and locals trying to step in where the slack has been from FEMA and other organizations. We'll be here as long as it takes to make sure these communities are rebuilt. We don't want these people to be forgotten about in 2 weeks when everybody goes home.
So do you feel that FEMA would you like to see an investigation to see if there are instances of FEMA not stepping fully up to the plate?
I actually would like to see a full and utter overhaul of the agency in general. The way it's designed and the way it's functioning, in reality, it functions exactly the way it's designed right now. It's a bureaucratic, over-bloated organization and agency that's ineffective in what it does and what it's supposed to be earmarked to do. FEMA's kind of taken a role more as an insurance company more than it has been a disaster relief organization. And I think the critical understanding is that there's a gap missing. There's a gap between that 48 and 72-hour mark and that 14-day, 15-day mark. And that gap is being filled on a regular basis by civilian volunteers and nonprofit rescue organizations that self-deploy forward in order to assist these devastated areas. And that gap can only be filled by organizations that don't have such a top-down control mechanism that requires so much procedural red tape to actually affect change. It's actually some of the stuff we're fighting right now on the ground. We've been here for 7 weeks. And in the last 7 weeks, not only have we provided rescue operations, and the civilian volunteers on the ground have done phenomenally well, the local county authorities with regards to fire and EMS and police have done a great job as well. The critical piece is the missing piece, and that is, how do we actually get that capital re-injected real time back into the local economies and the local communities? And the bureaucratic red tape and the procedures that we currently have in place at the FEMA level for federal funding to come in takes so long that 9 times out of 10, it's not realized until years later. And that's one of the critical dysfunctions that has to be fixed. So an investigation, yes. I think that there has to be a real consideration in how FEMA functions and operates, and how we can potentially overhaul the agency to do better.
And lastly, in the last 30 seconds or so I've got, Adam, what is the latest situation on the ground there where you are?
We're not out of it yet. We're 7 weeks in. There are still some missing people, and not to make anything dramatic at this point, a majority of the missing people that we're looking for, we don't know if we're going to be able to find them. As well, the devastation and destruction. There is progress on the ground. There is hope to be had. It's now a rebuilding focus. How do we rebuild these homes? How do we bring the local economy back up on its feet? And how do we get that capital injection from private sector entities that can fill that gap that public sector is just not being able to do right now?
Adam Smith of Savage Operations stepping up to the plate and staying committed to take care of the people of Western North Carolina. Adam, thank you for your insight. Thanks for joining us. Good luck, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Griff. We appreciate you.
Anita?